Every chapter of my life until recently was ruled by fear, anxiety, and hurry. As a child, teenager, and adult, I was afraid of absolutely everything. I always had a sense that life had a deeper meaning, but all my questions and fears could not be alleviated by anyone. I grew up going to church. My parents started going when I was about a year old, but hearing all the stories, they either felt like fairy tales or just filled me with more fear. I had a really difficult relationship with my dad, which made it hard for me to picture God being a loving entity. Nobody could ease any of my fears. I felt always deeply unlovable and like I was just born wrong. I had moments of feeling God's presence, but what I really wanted was just to skip ahead to the good parts. I thought that getting married and having babies would just fill the emptiness that I always felt. It's what I always wanted ever since I was a little girl. I just wanted to be a mom. I rushed into so many relationships, including marriage at 18 years old. I didn't know the man, and he just promised a security that I'd always wanted, and I always feared that no one would ever want to marry me. He also introduced me to alcohol, which seemed amazing and like the answer to all my problems. It made me feel for the first time like I was going to be okay. It got rid of my anxiety temporarily, got rid of my shyness. I was able to talk to people, and it just for a very short time made everything okay. Each decision I made brought more darkness. When the hole I would dig got deep enough, I would instinctively just cry out to God. I knew something was there telling me there was a different way, but as soon as I'd get any sure footing, I would just run my own way again. I felt like following the path that God wanted me to would keep me from doing all the things that my body told me that I wanted to do. I wanted to do things my own way. I didn't want to miss out on anything the world was offering. My rushed marriage failed, and I thought leaving my husband would make it able for me to stop drinking. I was consumed with guilt for leaving our marriage and for not having my children with me half the time. I had 2 beautiful kids that I'd always wanted, and I just kept letting them down no matter what I did. I just felt like I didn't deserve them. I wanted to do better, and I didn't know how. I got in relationships so I wouldn't have to be alone, and I would just jump from one to the next, and with no time in between to recover or to heal. Substances came and went. I went to the doctor repeatedly for medications for depression. Nothing they gave me helped. It just made me feel more like a zombie. I would scramble to anything and everything that would bring me temporary relief. And when I'd hit a rock bottom, I was always surprised to find that there was another one beneath it. When I could pray, there was something blocking me from praying a lot. I would try and just feel like this wall, but I would often pray for death. Just please don't let me wake up. I can't deal with this pain. The shame of not being the mother that my kids needed almost killed me. And that's really the biggest thing here. They were all I ever wanted, and I kept letting them down. I tried ending things a few times with prescription medications. I think it started off as just taking a couple more. Maybe that would help. But I remember being saved quite a few times by firefighters. Something wouldn't let me give up. Something inside would not let me give up. My kids were the only reason I fought as hard as I did, and I know I wouldn't be here without them. My ex and I both struggled with substances, and I was hospitalized in February of 2017 for drinking an entire 5th of whiskey. And I don't even know in what time frame I did that, but I woke up in the hospital alive. And I tried to leave that relationship quite a few times. I knew it wasn't healthy for me. I knew I wanted a fresh start, but every time I tried to leave, we shared a car, and he would threaten to call the cops and tell them that I'd stolen it, and it just kept me there. It kept me there, and I allowed it to. My dad, he bought me a van. He worked really hard on a landscaping trade-off and got me a van, and that's my freedom van. One night my ex was at work, and I packed everything up, and I had arranged it with my work to transfer my job to Edmonds. I worked at Panera, and everyone was on board, and I just left a note and I was gone, and I never looked back. I I knew I had to start fresh, and I was really excited. My daughter Ariel had started going to church on her own, and I wanted to join her. So I drove everything back and moved in with my parents. A few days later, I had just been feeling sick, and I couldn't beat this. And I was walking in QFC, and I passed by the pregnancy tests, and like this feeling in my stomach jumped, and I was like, well, I'm not, there's no way. So I bought that test, and I went home in the bathroom, and I took it, and was completely horrified to find out that I was not alone. I had just left. I was just gonna start this new plan. I was gonna turn my life over to Jesus, and now I was like stuck to this man that I had just escaped, and it was scary. It was super scary. My brain started going really fast, and I was like, how can I get out of this? Nobody has to know. I can get an abortion. Like, nobody even has to know about that. This can all be a secret. And I just remember, when I say God's voice, it's not a voice in my ear, but it was strong in my tummy. And I just felt this overwhelming love for this baby I didn't even know. And I just remember screaming, and my mom came in the bathroom because she was scared. She thought something was wrong. And it was just too late. I was screaming because I felt love, and I couldn't end this life. And just everything was flashing before my eyes, what my mom knew, but what is my other family gonna think? What are my kids gonna think? What is society gonna think? Like, I'm just a mess. I'm just a hot mess, and I can't get out of this, and now I'm pregnant again. And all I wanted to do was go back to church, and what are the churches gonna think? I knew I was doing stuff I shouldn't be doing, but I wanted to turn it around, and this just felt like another stopping point for me. But I really felt God tell me in that moment that He would take care of me if I chose to have her, and so I did. And I really feel like I chose life for myself and the little life inside me. I reached out to an old friend on Facebook that I'd actually gone to church with growing up, and she told me that her church was Creekside, and I wanted to come. And I remember walking in. It was November. I don't think I even looked pregnant. I'm pretty tall. Nobody knew for a long time, but I just knew I was right where I was supposed to be. I felt God's presence so much that day, and I just knew I was in the right place. I think I thought that finding Jesus would be like an easy, immediate relief, but it's really uncomfortable. There's a lot of growth that happens, and it was super, super uncomfortable. But there was a strong peace underneath it all. I really feel like Kala, my little girl, not only saved me from the path I was going down, but saved her dad, and also restored all my relationships in my life. But I started studying the Bible for myself for the first time. I'd been so scared to pick it up. Reading it as a child and as a teenager, it was scary to me. I didn't really understand. I just didn't understand. But studying it for myself for the first time and seeing verses that I had read or memorized being plucked out of chapters, seeing it all laid out was so different. Seeing the story unfold and why Jesus needed to come was just changed everything. I was just getting hungrier and hungrier to learn everything I could. I was getting involved with groups. I was starting to serve. Getting outside of myself was really helpful. Even at that scary time, I knew I had to help other people, and that helped me the most. And the more I learned about what Jesus did for me and did for all of us, the more forgiveness I was able to extend to other people. My whole life was surrounded with fear for probably 35 years, every single day, just tortured with fear, and I feel free from that now. Taking responsibility for my part in the past was the most powerful part of my journey, and pretty much the only thing I can take credit for is that I finally just owned up to the things I'd done and asked for repentance and asked for forgiveness on that. That was really tough to do because I always felt like I was a pretty good person. But it's not about being good. I was making choices that separated me from God. This fall I had a relapse, and it was very private, and I started immediately. I didn't fall down, I didn't get completely wasted. It seemed like it was something I could control, and maybe I was gonna be okay, maybe I could have a little bit. But it started something ugly churning inside me, and I reached out to my friend Stephanie, and I reached out to Pastor Kate, and I told him what I did, that I'd messed up, but I knew I'd done it, and I wanted help, and was there anybody else who might need help, that we could talk to each other and pray for each other. And so I'm so thankful to my friend Stephanie, because she has been so open about her journey that it made me feel like I could too. And reaching out to her, we found more ladies in the church that were struggling in the same way I was. And for the first time in my life, I feel like I have sisters and prayer partners, and we check in daily, and we cry with each other, and we pray for each other. I'm so excited for what the future holds for myself and for everyone around me, and eternity. I'm just so thankful to Jesus for every bit of it.